Today, I'm talking to Cyril. He's a hardware hacker from Brooklyn, New York. Together, we go over his childhood and how that led him to his lifelong passion of creating and modifying hardware. We look at his current ventures, such as an audio device for his DJ friends or crypto wallet. We also look at his fun projects, such as a desk lamp that has emotions. We also get into what can be or shouldn't be called creativity when someone is in a non-artistic environment. Lastly, we cover the balance between relationships and building too much. Ultimately, though, he's such a fun guy to talk to. He's been my friend for a couple of years, and I'm so happy to say that he's the perfect guest for the first episode of First Hitch. Enjoy. Can I start you out with what I just wrote and kind of narrate it as like a little intro? And it would explain what I'm trying to do, maybe get you a little bit in the mood. And I would prefer to I would love to get your feedback as well.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and start off with your pre-prep, whatever you wrote.
There's a lot of sensational content out there. We tend to only listen to stories of those at the end of their journeys who have succeeded, as if they had a secret recipe for success we can follow. Reality is there's tiny yet significant things that separate everyone's journey. I'm a big fan of behind the scenes, personally. In movies, you get to see all the tricks, the production horror stories, and the human toll it took to finish your favorite film. And usually the process behind the art is often more interesting than the result. I think we all have our own personal behind the scenes. And when people say, I've started something, it's not the whole story. There's that behind the scenes. There's the back and forth conversations for countless nights, doubts, reversals. Most importantly, though, way back, there was that one initial feeling when you thought, just for a second, I'm going to do this. Different from dreaming, different from being a bystander. It's just that feeling that comes with resolve, kind of like seeing into the future. So in our conversations, we go all the way back to this moment that we call the first stage.
Nice. I got mixed feelings about it. I think that it's 60% longer than it should be. I think that what the point that you're trying to get to, you definitely got in the last 3 or 4 sentences, and everything else just felt like it was belaboring the point a little bit. Like we know where we're going here. We know where the finish line is. Why not get there a little bit quicker?
Cool. That's really useful. All right. Anything else you felt like maybe some of the sentences didn't make sense or?
No, I thought the overall concept makes sense. I like how you frame it as, hey, we know what will end up, but hey, let's dig deep into the beginning, those foundational moments. The behind the scenes note, the personal touch of this is why I like this. I like that a lot. I think that's something that you should anchor a little bit more on.
Okay. You enjoy the behind the scenes quite a bit.
As you get into an interview, it's a callback that you can keep on having. Whatever that personal touch is, whether it's the behind the scenes for movies or something else, you could keep up with like, oh yeah, that this is also related because this other actor or founder or etc. does this, and I was doing some more research on that. This proves that you really are about this sort of mental mind state.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. I'll take these 3 pointers. I think that's everything I wanted and could have asked for. You're in help as always.
See you later.
Bye.
This is great.
All right, let's get into you.
Cool. Okay, so to start off, my name is Cyril Engmann. I'm a hardware hacker. I love making things, but I more so love breaking things. There's something so unique about uncovering how something works, and as well as like creating hardware that feels super unique to you because you figure out how it works and you can really dial into the parts that are more personal and more unique to you and yourself. So I feel like most of my life has been doing that, trying to create some unique experiences around hardware and hardware hacking. And I feel like that's very, very on point with what we're talking about here today, just figuring out how things work, uncovering the long and the short of things. So to tell you more history wise, how I got started along this path and my overall story, I love telling the story actually, because it kind of like the sort of fucking hooligan I was as a child. As a kid, all I did was break things. My mom hated me. She absolutely hated me because if anything had like a switch or a button or just anything like touch or pull, I would figure out how to touch, pull, switch, do whatever I had to do to end up breaking that device. And as first generation immigrants in America, we didn't have the money to repair the TV that I broke or the cabinets that I broke or anything else in between. So it was also my role in the home to figure out how to fix it. So I would try and just, even as a child, even as a young tot, just button them differently or unplug, replug things or just disassemble, reassemble things. And all throughout that journey has really stuck with me today of just having that natural curiosity to figure out how things work and how to play with things.
Nice. So that's the origin of Cyril in breaking things around the household and trying to figure out how to fix it afterwards because that was the wrath of your mother.
Exactly. Still doing
Looming.
it. Not my mother
Still
anymore. Everyone else, but still doing it now.
everyone else. Oh, that's sweet. Coming from Prague, Eastern Europe, and my father very similarly, it made me repair everything I could. So I get you fully. I get
Do
you
you
full.
remember any of the things you specifically broke?
My story with breaking things is very first computer that my dad brought. I was 7 years old. It was like a PC, like 3.1 Windows. He puts it in front of me. It has the monitor, everything. I turn it on. I don't do anything. It goes blue screen of death.
Mm.
Of course, he thinks it's my fault. Of course,
Yeah,
he does. I just
yeah.
pressed the freaking button. So he's like, "Oh, it's our fault." I'm like, "Oh no, it's not." Um, and then, as luck might have it, he brings another computer 2 days later, fixed or like replaced or something. Right? It boots up, so it's just like Windows 95, like so, a newer computer basically. He was like, "That one didn't work. It's too old. Let's get a newer one." Uh, and I open MS Paint. I start painting in it, and blue screen of death.
No, 2 for 2. Oh,
So within the span of a couple of days, I destroyed two computers. That was not my fault.
sure.
Sure. And that's why I stuck with technology all my life, I guess. It loves me so much.
Oh,
So that's my story.
I'm guessing you learned how to fix those computers. You had to. There's no way it was about to
Yeah,
be 3 for 3.
probably, right? Would you think to reverse that question on you, right? So do you think like just fixing the core of what motivated you to play around with switches? Because I want to see like why do you even have the need to take them apart?
So I wouldn't say it's just fixing, right? It was overall like improving and trying to create unique experiences. So very similar to you. My dad was working for the city and there was a big sale of a bunch of old computers. And he brought home, because my dad's a little bit of a hoarder, he brought home five. So he brought home five computers in various states, had no idea if they really worked or not. And we lined them all up upstairs. I was must for like 7, 8 years old, and like we're turning them on off and trying to figure out their state. And I remember two of the five worked. And I was like, oh man, I kind of really wanted the whole five, even as like a little kid, more options to play with just in case. So my dad went to work the next day and I disassembled all five. I was like, maybe if I put the RAM in this one into the other one, maybe if I hot swap whatever PCIe card in this one and the other one. And I remember at the end of the day, I got 4 of the 5 working. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but I want like one choker. I want one computer that can like really work for my games, and the rest of them can be like for my 3 sisters. So I remember just like swapping out components, figuring out how to find the RAM and which RAM was the biggest, and just having that custom built computer, even at a young age, that fit my needs felt amazing. Wait, you can do this with everything. You can just figure out what in your life you want to customize to create to really fulfill you and really make you feel like you have the hardware needs, the software needs, whatever else that can really encompass your overall ethos. So I think that that experience as a kid really shined out, but I've been hungry for that ever since. It's one of the reasons why this is a hot take, but I don't like iPhones. I feel like there's only so much customization you can do on an iPhone versus an Android. It's one of the reasons why I buy a lot of really weird hardware from AliExpress and things like that, because not only are they weird off the get, but usually a lot of these Chinese manufacturers cut corners, which makes it a little bit easier to hack on versus a nicely polished American made device where they kind of make sure everything's locked down. So yeah, I've always been super curious in how I can customize things, whether it's specifically like switches and buttons or more or less bigger pieces of technology.
Nice, nice. Uh, that sounds very creative. So we're gonna switch over to that area. It sounds like, hey, I want to take something and make it something else. Is that something that is more important to you than we didn't really get into that? I'm gonna cut in the middle here as a horrible question, but
No.
your background is in security as well, right?
Mhm.
So, that's a very different thing than creativity when you think about it. I assume, maybe you can correct me, but I assume it's very, very different. And so one is creativity and one you have security, but where do you draw the line between the two? Where does it connect? I'm interested in that kind of connection because you've had hands in both.
Yeah, really good question. I've always struggled with the word creative. A handful of my friends started calling me a creative in the past. I'm like, I'm not like, I'm not an artist. I'm not, I don't paint. I don't like think about the world in that way. But they're like, Cyril, do you see the bullshit that you put out there? Like the weird, the fact that this is actually fun. I have a phone on my phone case. I took apart an NFC, an RFID badge, and I just tape them on the back there. That way I can get into various offices and stuff just by like saving the RFID badge on the phone case versus NFC, which is already like in a lot of Android and iOS phones. Like, hey, Cyril, that's creative as fuck. That's not something that regular people think of. So it's always been kind of elusive to me what creativity means. And in the eyes of security, I feel like that's where it kind of drilled down of, oh, okay, you have to be creative in this field. One of the big presidents of security is it's kind of just being a test engineer, thinking of all the things that someone wouldn't test or wouldn't think to test. And you just kind of brute force that in. And it also deals with my overall ethos, like figuring out how things work, trying to figure out ways to be deeply unique about things and deeply personal. Well, as I was just doing that in my day to day, creating projects or products that was super unique and figured out how to get those working, I got eyed by a security organization and they're like, hey, wait, you can do this. You can do this really well. Further into my history, that happened back in 2016. I was at DEF CON and I ended up winning the badge hacking challenge that year just because I was probing around on the different pins on the badge, just trying to make it do a cool light up thing. And then I was like, wait, you can do, you can hack this badge completely if you just leverage more of what I was doing. And that got the eye of the government, specifically the Army's red team. They're like, wait, this kid, just him and like two other people hacked this badge that a bunch of professional hackers are trying to go up against. There's something here. Let's try and hire them. Let's try and recruit them to work on some cool Army cybersecurity stuff. So yeah, that was an interesting application of creativity, and I feel like I've just been leaning into that ever since. I still don't want to call myself naturally a creative, but I do think that you do have to have a good amount of creativity when approaching a bunch of the problems in both the cybersecurity sphere as well as the sphere that I think I'm more related to, which is just like designing unique, cool shit.
Nice. That's 100% agree on creativity. I've thought about it while preparing for this interview, especially with you, because I knew this is going to come up where you don't feel like a creative person, but you are an incredibly creative person. I'm telling you that as well. Uh, it's something I battled with myself as well for a while, but for me, the word was art. Like a lot of people are saying, like, you have a very artsy approach to a lot of things. And I'm like, I hate art. I'm not an artist. I'm a designer. That's what I usually was defined as. And then over time, I've started removing the label and I just didn't care. I think with creativity, I am starting to think about it as a skill that's just learnable. And some people have better inclinations to it than others, but it's just a skill that's applicable everywhere. And I've talked to
Mhm.
entrepreneurs that are just really looking at their spreadsheets and trying to figure out how to find a percentage to make their business work. That's very creative sometimes. So at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be anything to do with arts. I think creativity really is just applying some sort of a genius solution that's often very simple or
Yeah.
just out there. Uh,
I like that. I like that call out. I think that even with that mindset, like programmers can be creative, even if you're not doing like UI or UX, you have to be creative with those solutions sometimes because the run of the mill solution won't work. There's so many different fields out there that don't necessarily have to relate to art. That still means that you're pulling on forces that other people may have not tried before. It's not the run of the mill, and it's more so a skill. I like that definition a lot.
nice, nice. To carry on, to push through, we are talking, let's talk about what you're doing today. So you were at security. That is not the case anymore, right? You've kind of moved over to your own thing. Let's talk about that. Like, how does that look like? And, how is this original itch of destroying things, creating things, and being a creative person propagating into your current day and just life?
Yeah. So to base myself in the present right now, I'm building really cool products, both for myself as well as for larger startups that I really resonate with. My ethos, as I figured out a few years back, is I love making these unique personal tools. Doesn't have to be a device that scales up to millions or billions, but it has to be something that when it's inside someone's hands, they really wanted that solution. They really needed that solution because that solution didn't exist in the market already. While I was working for the government, it was a lot of the same. I was building more or less red team tools or spy tools for the US Army. And those tools are not something that's mass marketable. It's something that's going to end up in the hands of 1 to 5 people in the entire world. And just being able to like sit down with those individuals and figuring out their needs and really building out these custom tools for them. That's what I really loved about the job. And I realized that I could lean into that and just do it, not necessarily for the government, but for my friends, my family, the people in my life that really matter, as well as people around the world who have challenges that really excite me. So I've been doing that in the past year now. I went full time a year ago as of last February, and it's been a journey to say the least, going full time on something that is more or less a little bit of an art, more of a discipline, but a little bit more of an art. But I've been loving the journey. It's been really fun so far.
Let's delve deeper into that. I appreciate the break, but I think there's more to uncover. So maybe the best would be to take any project you could talk about and give us an example of whether it's the contractual work or whether it's the R&D work you're doing for yourself. Maybe it's two different things, whichever is preference. Let's start with that.
Yeah. So one of the projects that inspired me the most right now is an audio live streamer device that me and a few fellow collaborators are working on called Soul, SOL. We were approached by a friend. They were an artist. They wanted to make it easier to live stream audio. Right now, to do that, you have to take your laptop to a venue, you have to connect to Wi-Fi, you have to then plug things in, open up different programs in your laptop just to be able to share your music with the world. Knew that that problem is a very solvable problem. It could definitely be done easier. So we've created this device. It's small, handheld. I wish that I had pictures ready, but I'll probably send them to you after this interview. And it's super compact, super easy for artists to use. One button, powers on, another button you just press and it live streams to a central server that they can share off to their friends and family, or they can share it off to YouTube or Twitch or anything else. It's one of those solutions that I know for a fact all of my DJ friends have been asking for as soon as I told them that it's something that I'm working on. And that feels great. It feels like we are applying this really novel, unique solution into a problem space that isn't incredibly hard, isn't incredibly difficult. I don't feel like that has to be the bounding line for some of the work that I do. It doesn't have to be almost unachievable as like a moonshot. It just has to be something that someone needs and they want a unique experience and unique application for. So that's the one that I've been putting in a lot of time, but there's so many other stories. I could keep going if you would like.
I would, but let's stick with Solve for one more question. That itself, maybe may help me understand. Is that going to be a separate startup? Is that just the product that you're going to sell through your current venture?
Yeah. So Soul and the beginnings of that started through the garage agency, the agency that I started a few years back. But as we started working together on that, me and the client, as well as my co-founder for the garage agency, we loved working with them. We loved the idea. We loved the product. So we spun off into a separate company, and we've been working on that company officially for about a year now. Yeah.
Nice. So basically, you're running two companies that I know of. So
Two companies at the minimum. Oh, there's a third.
there we go. All right.
Background. But I feel like a company is literally just a tool. Sometimes people are afraid to just file in that paperwork, start an LLC or anything else. It's just a tool to, one, categorize your expenses so you don't have to kind of get fucked in certain ways by taxes, and two, just formalize things, make it easier to apply to grants, apply to funding, sometimes apply for VC investment. And I think that that's all necessary evils when it comes to running a business. It's not, it does cost a little bit of money and it is a little bit of admin, but to gain all the benefits, especially here in America, it's more or less a need or requirement.
Yeah. I think a little sideway there, sidebar is everyone on Twitter should hear this. Everyone from bootstrapping, software, SaaS, AI company could hear this, where it's such a need to make it a concrete thing. So it's not a hobby anymore, and you start working towards it. And then also it has some applicable, taxes, all that stuff, expenses. I think you're kind of pushed into it because of the hardware part, where because you're building stuff, you're probably like sourcing a lot of materials. It kind of needs to make it concrete.
Yeah.
And I've seen it repeatedly with other people I've talked to that are doing hardware. That is just, it's just a reality for you guys to be like, this is how it works.
I don't want MLB's payments to China being on my personal taxes.
Yeah, I don't even want to go into that. I think that's whoever knows is going to happen next week on that whole story. But yeah, let's avoid that whole thing.
A fun note about starting a company though that I just want to drop is I started my first company back the sophomore year of college accidentally. A friend called me that summer. I was at my internship, slaving away, and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna need your social security number." I was like, "That I've heard through everything. That's not something I'm just supposed to give." And they're like, "I'm your roommate. I'm your friend. Just trust me. Give me your social security number." I'm like, "Okay." So I gave them my social security number. And later that year, when I got back to college, they approached me like, "Hey, so just so you know, me, you, and this other friend of ours now have a small business together." I was like, "Wait, what?" He went, "Oh yeah, since you gave us your social, you're in our small business. We established it. It's based here in Austin, Texas, yada, yada, yada." I'm like, "Wait, what do we do? What's our small business?" And they're like, "We'll figure it out. Like, we'll use it to like apply to stuff and hopefully get like some free money, but we'll figure it out. We'll hack on it." Long story short, we did not figure it out. We didn't do a single thing with that business. And then the next year we got a letter from the IRS saying that we did not pay our taxes for our small business. And we freaked out. We're like, "Wait, we are three broke college students. This was more or less a bit like We were not ready for the responsibility that owning a business, quote unquote, is. So we had to go up to the RRS, we had to apologize. They closed out our business, and that was the end of that. But I always think back to it that my first business was absolutely a failed business, and it taught me a little bit about the values of owning a business and the different admin things you have to do behind it. So I'm on my third and fourth business now. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I'm on my fourth and fifth business now. That's crazy. I'm on my fourth and fifth business now, and I feel like I've learned so much along the way. So yes, to all your Twitter friends, all the people that are listening to this, start one. It is not the worst if it doesn't work out. It's more important that you start it that way. You have the liability as well as the resources that can give you to carry on in the entrepreneurial lifestyle.
We started very early age, you breaking things and building things and finding joy in that. And then now when you were 18 or 20 or something like that, and your friends are starting a business for you. And we also went through where you today. So, let's say that's 3 lifetimes you're itching, and let's kind of look ahead of the future. So if you think another lifetime, and I don't know if it's like a year, because it sounded like the year has been a lot already, or if it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, take it as you will.
Really good question. I think that one of my weaknesses is actually my long-term thoughts. I feel like I am very present and all my actions apply to I really want to do this now. I really want to get this done. Well, I've been trying to shift up that mindset. I've been trying to think more long-term recently. And I think that all of my projects have the same overall through line. I'm still building these unique tools. I'm still learning how to build these unique tools at scale, both for myself as well as for the companies that I work with. Another company that I didn't mention before is Writer. I helped them build out a really cool smart wallet for crypto. And the way it works, it has no port on it. It's all based with NFC and RFID, as well as wireless charging. And they just produced the first, I think, like 1,500 units. That was a huge milestone. It's one of the 3 companies that I've helped through that stage of producing the first 1,000 units. And I want to get to the stage where I'm doing that for my own businesses as well, that I now know the life cycle a lot better. I now can apply it a lot easier. And I have teams underneath me that I can just pick up and activate on. I think that's going to involve more trips to China. I think that's going to involve more depth relationship with manufacturers. So I'm excited to get into that part of the journey here probably soon, probably within the next year. I'm going to do a longer trip to China. There's a fellowship that I'm about to apply to. And if I get accepted, it's going to be like a month-long residency down over there, meeting manufacturers, learning the ins and outs. Maybe have to learn Mandarin. I don't know, but I'm excited to leverage the aspects of hardware that I love, which is how customizable it can be. And I feel like you can only really do that when you can elevate yourself to have those deeper relationships with manufacturers who actually have all those components that you can customize with and for.
I think what I'm hearing is you want to remain a builder. That's just not going away, right? You want to keep building, building, building. Like when trust me, if you told someone at like a founders meetup, a networking event, that you have 3 companies, but you also are applying for being a month somewhere in China to do something so you can learn to be a better, builder again, I think they would be thinking you're crazy.
Exactly. Oh, you get it. All the time for my founder friends, like, Cyril, you just need to stop and think
Yeah.
of one thing and really go in hard on that one thing. And my answer to that is fuck you. Like, that's not the way the world has to be. If I really wanted to just like sit down and make money as a founder, then yes, you just fully invest in one thing. You put in the time, you build a team, you activate on that one thing. But being very upfront, money is not a big concern for me. I have savings. I feel like more or less like I'm going to be fine as long as I maintain my company, maintain my business, and work very open and honestly, like I have been doing. I'd rather spend the short amount of time I'm here on this earth building cool things that I want to build, even if it takes like 3, 4 years for that thing to launch. That's completely fine by me. I'd rather take that time and be able to build those cool things than truly go all in and then end up hating that one thing that I'm building.
I love that. That's, obviously that speaks to me personally. I think it's like a good representation of what you just said, where you work on the red team stuff for the, for the government. And as you said, just 5 people are going to use it, maybe ever. And it's something super secretive. And then you're building a lamp that reacts to your emotions. That's basically, it's like the Pixar thing. And like,
Yeah.
how do you even go from like to fucking mind shift?
The one greatest asset I would say for working with the government, for all the young listeners listening, the government sucks for a lot of reasons, but I would say the one good plus for working with the government is they have infinite money. They print their own money. They have the money to just like build and build and build. And that was really cool working with R&D because it was a playhouse. I could order whatever I wanted to build things and learn all these different cool technologies. I could get them to pay to make me go to all these really neat conferences so I can then continue to learn so I can build better tools. And that hunger for learning, that desire to continuous learn is something that has stuck with me. So even after working with the government, I've always been building projects on the side, always wanting to learn the new technologies that are out there, or old technologies, double down with that too. And specifically with the robot lamp, robotics is huge right now. Robotics is easier than ever to build these incredibly complex systems with, I would say, hundreds of thousands of lines of code, thanks to the tools that is AI. So I wanted to leverage that and build something really cool and really unique with robotics. And that ended up being, you can kind of see it like this lamp over here that's on my desk. It's an embodiment of the Pixar lamp. It just sits here on my desk. It bothers me while I work. It hops around. It looks at me. It has computer vision, so it can tell when I'm happy, when I'm sad, and react to my overall mood. It's a super fun application of both computer vision, AI, robotics. And I, as a continuous learner, wanted to dig deeper into those fields and build something, again, unique for me, provides a super unique experience, and it feels deeply personable. It is my friend. Luck is my friend and hangs out with me sometimes at work. So I feel like that's been my through line ever since, even while I was working with the government, just trying to figure out how I can continuously learn to build these really cool projects that feel like they're mine and are part of my soul and part of my personality.
Yeah. Continuous development, very personal growth. Like, just like, yeah, I get it. It's a sweet goal to have. And from what I understand, that's an infinite, like, it's a journey forever.
Yeah.
Well,
Unfortunately, I do not have infinite time. So I'm very
well,
hungry to just build all the time.
I was going to follow up with the last question on that part, which we can kind of beautifully tie in where, uh, do you think we'll have a singularity point in our lifetime where you can take your brain, download it to a robot body, and we might have that, and maybe you can build forever?
It's been a thought, a non-joking thought of mine, with like the idea of digital twins out there right now. If you can embody that digital twin into a hardware persona, I feel like we're getting closer to that. I feel like there's actively individuals working on that, both in like simulation theory as well as like applied robotics theory. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's a very hard problem to solve. I would like it to be solved in certain ways. Like if while I'm sleeping, if there was a robot that could continue doing some of the tasks that I'm doing, or even just an AI agent in the cloud continuing to work on some of the tasks that I'm working on with the mindset that I have, I think that'd be really cool. I'm not afraid of that mindset, but I know that there's a lot of challenges involved that I am not smart enough to solve. So hopefully you or one of our close friends can let us in
Maybe.
on their progress if they solve it.
Yeah, maybe. If there was, it's that whole like, if you could live forever, would you, kind of question I'm trying to end on here. So
Yeah.
where given a choice, since kind of you have this eternal curiosity and you're trying to infinitely learn, would you take that option to do that forever if you could?
I think no. I think deadlines are important in life, regardless if it's like a project deadline or deadline that has to deal with like a life obstacle. I know that right now I'm in my builder's era and I can see me even doing this as I retire, continuing to build. But life is more than just building. It's more than just hacking. The times I spend with my family and with my partner, just exploring the world and doing cool things, that's very valuable as well.
Nice. So on that note, I think it means your itch is gonna stop scratching at some point, and you'll be like, it's gonna diminish, and you're gonna look at other itches, which might be, as you said, family and just like the normal life, as someone calls it.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Cyril. I think this was a good rundown of all the way from the start through the end. And you have some incredible background, and I wish we could speak for another hour, but I want to respect your time. I want to respect everything you've got. Maybe we're going to have another session together sometime soon where you'll show me what you've got new going on.
Hell yeah. I would love that actually. As I continue to like work on projects and release projects, please let me know if you want to talk about them. Always eager to talk. Always, always excited to talk to you too. Thank you for this time. Thank you for this opportunity. Felt great. Felt great catching up as well as just digging in a little bit.
Nice. Thanks, Cyril.
See ya.
Bye.
Are we signing up for real?
No.